Everyone. Trying to figure out my live info here. All right, so the what we're diving into today is why dogs will act aggressively and the various reasons behind all of that. And there are many which might really surprise you. So, first I want to dive into and the reason why we're going over this is because there based on the reason behind the act of aggression, that sets us up to know how to work with them and how to help the dog. So, first off, let's go into fight versus flight. Fight is when you're encountering something, you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's on. I need to make this thing go away." And flight is where the dog sees something, they're like, "Oh, I don't know about that. Let me get away from this thing. Let me just go away, please." And what ends up coming it comes down to is let's take an example of a bear walking into my yard. And I might say, "Oh my gosh, there's a bear. It's on. I'm making this thing go away. I'm big and bad," which honestly I would never do. The other portion of that is the flight where I'd be like running away. I'm getting inside. There's also what's called freeze, where you just literally just freeze and kind of shut down, like, I don't know which of those to do. I'm just gonna do nothing. So those are the real pieces that are coming into play when your dog has something going on based on fear. And so if I'm running away from a bear and I can't get away. And I'm trying to get into my door, the bear's running after me, and I am trying to open up the door, but the door's locked. Crap. I'm in trouble. The bear isn't understanding my warnings to stay away. So what ends up happening is I now have to fight. I don't have a choice. I've got to go fight against this bear because I've given it all the warnings that I need it to leave me alone, pretty much. And that's not happening. So I am going to finally aggress out. So let's take your dog, for example. Maybe your dog has given off lots of warning signs. They're going away. They're trying to retreat into another room. They're licking their lips. Their ears are back. They're looking away, blinking their eyes slowly. These are actually all signs that your dog's stressed. And if you ignore those signs, then they're going to aggress forward at some point. We push dogs into reactions. Dogs will also learn that, all right, fleeing doesn't work. It's not getting me out of a situation I'm uncomfortable with. I'm going to be proactive from now on. I am going to aggress forward. So just because a dog is barking and lunging doesn't mean the dog is not afraid. That is somehow and quite often how it's displayed. So, learning those warning signs are really, really important. And that is something we'll be diving into again, actually, very soon. We have resource guarding. So you can have the friendliest dog in the world, but all of a sudden they get a special toy or a bone, or it could even be a sock. It could be anything. Your dog gets to decide what is valuable. That is where the dogs will start to become aggressive. They don't want their item taken away from their prized possession. And if you do try to take it away, and you continually take their good stuff away, they're going to learn that you coming near their stuff or any person or another animal come near it is not good. And that is where the aggression can happen. They're defending their item. And resource guarding, unfortunately, the severity of the cases can skyrocket big time so fast because of the dogs just giving so many warning signs. And as owners, we've been taught when we were younger to take things away, to show your dominance and take items away. And I promise you that is the worst thing to do. Uh, Not going to dive into dominance right now, other than saying I do have a blog post on it. It's something that is unfortunately still in media, and it needs to go away because science says that the study that was originally done on it is wrong. So, side note there. If you're using punishment, say your dog is growling, or say your dog is, sees something walking by and they start barking and you punish your dog, you're suppressing that outward behavior, but you're also really solidifying to them that that stuff is bad. And you can actually become an owner with a dog that is a warningless biter. So the dog no longer gives those growls or those barks before a bite, they just go ahead and they bite. So punishment can really strengthen these problems big time. We have to take a look and consider the breed of dog. So if you have a dog that has been bred for protection, you have a German Shepherd, you have a Great Pyrenees, and then the list goes on. Those dogs were bred to protect, especially like with the Great Pyrenees. They're there to guard livestock and guard the home and the area where this dog is, where he resides. So if you just want to have a dog that loves every single person walking in that door, it's going to be harder because they have been in, inbred, like bred to react forward and aggress, to protect. Same in German Shepherds. They are bred as personal protection, and they are bred as working protection dogs. So that has to come into consideration, and which breed line you got your dog from. So maybe you got your dog from a breeder who his or her dogs, the parents or grandparents even, are military dogs. That's a problem. That's going to be in the pup as well. So you can't just say, oh, we'll train this out of you. This is in their DNA. Can I have, oh, I thought he was going to play with this toy. So taking a look at the breed and what it was made to do. Medical concerns can play such a big role. And anytime there's a behavior change, you want to make sure that you're looking into any kind of medical concerns and ruling those out first. So, pain. Dogs that don't like to be touched in certain areas can have a lot going on with pain. And if you've ever been in pain and someone kind of goes near the spot that hurts, like on your back or your knee, those are my two, it's not going to be, I'm telling you to back off. I'm not going to be very happy with it. And pain can actually, back end pain is actually associated or has been associated with increased resource guarding of items, which is pretty interesting. There could be something underlying medical like a brain tumor or cognitive dysfunction. So pretty much what that is dementia in dogs. So now we have this factoring in. There can also be underlying other physical conditions that honestly I can't tell you about because I'm not a vet and I can't diagnose. So if you see behavior changes in your dog, make sure that you're reaching out and getting to work with the vet to rule out anything or do what's necessary to help them with that pain. Frustration and redirection happens a lot. So when a dog, this is another reason, when a dog is frustrated, say they are behind a barrier like a fence or they are on a leash and they can't get to something and it gets them amped up, either they want to get to that thing because they want to make it go away, they don't like it, or they're so excited, they so badly want to go see this person or animal as their friend that the dogs redirect to something near them. So if you have two dogs at a fence on the same side and one is getting upset and seeing something on the other side, it is very, very likely that your dog is going to say, oh, I can't handle it. Let me go after you. Let me go after my friend. Or they can turn on the owner and go after them. So that frustration gets built up and then we see aggressive displays starting to happen and it actually becomes a pattern and a habit. The last thing is that I want to go into today is talking about I'm sorry, not medical, but puppies. So unfortunately, puppies are not born as blank slates. Like we've always been led to believe, or I was led to believe when I was growing up. Puppy, again, we talked about the genetics. There's also the medical, but if mom, let's say mom was stressed during pregnancy and when she was raising the pups in the litter, if she was stressed, that can have an impact on the puppies. If she was malnourished, that can have an impact on the puppies. If the puppies weren't properly socialized in the litter, but also once they get to their new homes, this can lead to huge, huge problems. And that's what we're seeing a lot of right now with pandemic puppies. So puppies that have been brought into homes during the pandemic where they're not able to get as much socialization or as much just time out in the world and experiencing new things. So they kind of become shut in. And now anything new that comes around is something scary. And that's where we have bites and we have aggression. I mean, this happens outside the pandemic too, before the pandemic ever hit. But that is another thing that is going to impact your pup. And if you don't properly socialize, if you wait for your dog to have all 3 rounds of distemper shots before going out and seeing dogs, you're going to have problems, really big problems. Um, if you improperly socialize to the point where you're putting your dog in situations that they're not comfortable with, they're getting stressed out, they're scared, and you might not recognize these signs. Um, but either way, if they're in these situations and they have to just deal with it, they can learn to become aggressive because they can't. Their signs, what they're telling you with their body language, is no longer working, and so now they really need to take matters into their own hands. So there are many, many, many reasons why dogs become aggressive. So we talked about the fight versus flight. We also talked a bit about freezing and how we can push dogs into fighting. And just because they're fighting doesn't mean they're not afraid. If we ignore those warning signs, if we're using punishment to try to train them or teach them not to do something, there's resource guarding. There are genetic factors because the dogs have been, um, they're breeds that are for protection and livestock. And so that is ingrained in their DNA. And now we're trying to take that out of them by putting them into homes where they're not getting the stimulation or their needs met as a breed requirement. There's medical. So again, we're looking at pain, we're looking at cognitive dysfunction, brain tumors, other things that your vet would need to diagnose. Frustration, where it gets redirected to something else. And then puppies not being properly socialized, puppies not being a blank slate. So again, we have the genetics and we take a look into the stress of the mom during pregnancy and while raising the pups. And that's a lot of information. So that is why anytime I'm working with a client, I'm getting a very deep history of everything going on. What from as early as possible to what we're seeing at the moment, and as much information is going to help narrow in various things. And it could be multiple reasons why a dog's becoming aggressive, and that is something we also definitely have to factor in. So, just because you see a dog as barking and lunging, it does not mean he is giving you a hard time, that he's trying to give you a hard time. It simply means your dog's having a hard time and they're trying to fit into this world that we've brought them into. And sometimes we have unrealistic expectations for what they should be doing in certain situations. So, if there are any questions, I would love to hear from you guys. I'd love to really hear too why you picked your dog. Do you love a certain breed? And are you seeing maybe those signs of guarding or protection work coming out? Um, One actually well-known breed for resource guarding are golden retrievers. And so that is something we need to actually take a proactive approach to when you get a golden pup or even as adopting an adult. Um, that is just one of those things. So curious. Definitely jump in the comments what questions you guys have about dogs when they aggress and why they aggress, and what questions you have about anything in general. But I also love to know why you picked the dog that you did pick. Was there a certain quality or characteristic you saw in the dog that you liked, or is it just this was totally unexpected with these behaviors? So I am going to hop off, and I look forward to coming to you guys next week with some awesome, really awesome information. And we're going to be doing a series of things starting next week. So, of ways that we now dive in to help your dogs and how we start that and we progress through it. So, I will see you guys next week, and let me know your questions. I might jump into another live, before then and answer them for you. But have a nice rest of your day.